Alrighty. Today we're going to try to figure out, I don't know why, but something about Martis. Who the fuck is he and what's he doing? You know, all that stuff. So that's where we're going to start. We're just going to try to figure out Martis a bit. So that means that I have found. I'm trying to open a file of, yes, the Forgotten Plot. The first chapter. That's super blank. We're going to read about Martis. And we're going to. Again, this is a. I don't even know if what he says now is relevant to the story anymore. So that's why we're reading it. We're going to figure this all out. But the idea is we're gonna say, okay, we're going to find out who the man is. Let's start where he begins in the book. And then where we find him again. And then what he's doing and who he is. And blah, blah, blah. So, let's delete that because we don't need it. Yeah, I don't know what I changed, but yes. Right. Martis was a frail old man, his body thin with large hands and a larger nose, white wispy hair that draped over his face when he spoke. The long flowing robes he had always worn were beguiling array of flamboyant colors of green, red, and yellows. The large emblem upon his cape was that of Etrovia. Why? That can't be right. A large gold and red dragon and shield. In his decrepit age, he would often lean on his podium, hands clasping around the edges as if he was on the brink of keeling over. Then momentarily Martis raised his hand as if to convey true emotion and conviction. His voice was loud and booming. As Martis shouted louder, his voice would turn into an almost squeal, to which he then would let out a booming cough, gasping for breath as he spewed his spiteful words to those in attendance at the morning mass. Martis's eyes were darting around in a frantic rage, beginning to bulge from his gaunt red face. This was the man who would speak before the mass. Just another speaker that brought information and current news from the outside world. But this time... See, I don't know about the Atrovian benefactors thing right now. I don't know. But we're going to roll with it. But this time the Atrovian benefactors had chosen a special guest to speak on the behalf of Atrovian interests that would in turn affect Adrana. Etrovia had taken control of Adrana some 40 years ago. The great empire to the north had collected a few countries in their expansion into the land of Vas. That doesn't seem right anymore. He wants to speak of the ongoing conflict against Tantorum, Adrana's neighbor and the longtime ally centuries ago. His tension was filling the room like putrid odor rank with anxiety. Today he had much to say. That cannot be true. I don't know, it used to be, because that's what I was trying to figure it out. And no, he's not that anymore, you motherfucker. So that has to just all be gone. Because he is a prophet to Freydin. So all that shit. I mean, at first he was someone from the Valens speaking about rebels, whoever those fucking rebels were. Then he turned into this guy, and now it's like, nope, now he's not that anymore. He's went through phases. As they all do. Exactly 3 weeks ago today is a day which shall go down in history, this I swear. The trade war that has been straining our economy for months now. The trade war is over. Oh, it's all fucked up. Okay, well... Maybe we won't read it, because it's just all fucked up. Yeah. That's... No. Fuck it. I guess we're just not going to do that. We're going to just have to go away somewhere else. That's just going to need to be all redone. Just rip the bitch apart to its foundation and just paste in the new, stuff. But we do have something we do know. And I remember it being another piece of paper about it kind of somewhere else. But is that how I spell his name? Mardas? Mardas. Mardas. To which I spell that, yeah, it's always been Mardas, not Mardas. The confusion between Mardas and the prophet, between Mardas the prophet and his relationship to the Slop King is a confusing one. For at many times it can be seen as one person. Now he is a conduit for the Slop King. That's a period. Now, is he a conduit for the Slop King? This is a question that has gone unanswered far too long, so we will comb through everything we know about the man. When the story first mentions him, he has a sermon of sorts to the masses that were attendants at the temple of Noivilla Square. It is here that he speaks about what mages always seem to speak about, and then that's why I was like, well, what did he say? And apparently it's absolutely nothing. So, what would he be doing when he goes to Noivilla Square? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back and see where his allegiances lie. Well, his allegiances lie with the Slop King. Who's the Slop King, you might ask? That's a good question. As far as I know, the Slop King is another king like the Forgotten King. So when I was saying the, let me see if I can find it, and then I'll just kind of make can make some corrections. It would have been in, oh God, what was it? Forgotten Revelation backstory? What the hell was that one? No. It wasn't the Forgotten Journals. It was something else. Oh. Forgotten Revelation backstory. That might be it. I don't know, though. I doubt it. History of Adrana? Was that it? Was it the Forgotten Legend? I think the Forgotten Legend was of the Titans. Fuck, where did I write all that shit? Now I don't remember. The Forgotten Journals with an S? I think that's different because it was translated. Oh, crikey. God damn it. You son of a bitch. Story, The Riddle of the Eyes, where it begins. Promise. Yinakume. Power Hungry Mages and the Christian. Okay, so the force is an uncontrolled power in need of intellect to regulate the soul of the body. It is the direction to quell basic human instinct in the mind, leading to progress. Progress that stirs man away from the promise. Now, eventually, this becomes corrupted by the Adriorix in the break from the Creator, which is a moment. For the belief is unbridled power is destruction. Philosophy of the Keeper Spirit will give light to love. Love, truth, through philosophy guided by intellect and regulated by right, and justice combined with movement to guide into harmony. Basically, it's just like if we just like mind control these motherfuckers into docileness, then we won't have a problem with the whisper. Because it seems to be an infection amongst mankind that's getting stronger and stronger as time goes on. This feels weird. Somehow this feels wrong. Hands clasped like this out before me. Yuck. It feels weird. So, it's, the Adriorix is like, how would you word that? Not the monks or, the bishops, cardinals, whatever. Just a group of motherfuckers that are saying, here's what we're doing. So, in Adrana, religion is very much a philosophy as it is, something to worship. They haven't, of course, religion's always a philosophy, but they haven't turned it in such a way where it doesn't come across as true, pure philosophy against the darkness. Now, the understanding of the darkness being this cesspool for the whisper is the problem. So to replace this darkness, this depression, this is kind of the idea about pills, you know. If we put in something there to replace this darkness, then we will not have the growth of the whisper, right? Now there's a second, what's become kind of messed up in the Adriorix is what the prophets are doing. This siphoning of power. So there's not a lot of prophets. It's not like thousands of prophets that are doing all this. Like, essentially, how I envision it is there's only one true walker, but there are many that have been touched ones or whatever. Those ones are put into the schools. But the true walker, which is only one at a time, like a prophet every once in a while, that doesn't happen and then now there's another one a year later. It doesn't really normally work that way. It's just that it happens when it happens. The last prophet before Phradon was whoever Ravian was. Because there's a lot of a lot of confusion about Ravian, whether he was either a prophet or a walker. It's strange. I don't really know. It's like one of those things you just don't know. Mostly because I don't know what I'm fucking doing right now. But anyway, Martis has become the prophet to Phradon. It's kind of an anointed thing. Because as I said, it's not a school of prophets. They train the mages, I should say, but you don't become an official prophet until the walker comes along. You could train your whole life for nothing. For nothing. You and 500 other kids, let's say, all train, and then now you're 80, and it doesn't matter, because there never was a prophet that came to be. But they do it just in case. And they do understand the arts of magic, and what they can do with that magic, it's just it can be enhanced when there is a walker. As to how often a walker comes, it's hard to say, because it's only recognized by the Adriorix Chantry. Which means there's probably something behind it. There could have been a lot of walkers, and then they're just like, no, this doesn't serve our purpose, or, I don't know, anything you could think of. We're talking about like a bunch of people getting together. Of course, it's about to get corrupt real quick. Anyway. This was just a cause that has, to time, become power-hungry with the magic that comes from the realm of creation. Because of the trapping of the Forgotten King, the bastion of man, his creator, in some ways this trapping is seen as a tool that he has granted to man in order to dominate the people, in order to quell the whisper that can grow within. So when the second chantry looked to stop this growth, it had then drawn greater and greater power from the other realm, to which this became lost to the very same power they needed. Now the chantry sits as the religion in Adrana, a religion that's true purpose was forgotten, but its rules still hold true. I have something about that in my phone too, actually. I'll get to that in a second. The chantry's head, Gynasus' long life was not because of his claim to be the descendant of the son of Tan, but of his straining of the power because of the next walker. So, how could that be if the walker was just, what's it called? God damn it, named. Again, maybe there's something sinister going on. Maybe there were more. Maybe this is all trapped from the whisper. It's hard to say, you know. The anointed walker was said to be the descendant of the Forgotten King, his first son, and unbeknownst to he, the chantry was using him in order to draw from the other realm. He dispatched his liege holder, Martis, to help the next walker. And that's what that prophet is derogatorily called in the chantry, the leash holder, because of what happens with the Forgotten King. The next walker meant that true unbridled power was here, and thus we could benefit from it, whether that be selfishly in personal needs of the court, hanging off of him, or rather the generals looking to finally crush their enemies in the field of war. Alright, let me see if I can find that thing real quick in my phone about the Forgotten King and like his trapping and how he views it. Alright, when the Forgotten King is disassociating being siphoned from, that's what we're talking about. He believes it is the wisp, but in reality, it is man the whole time. We're talking about them siphoning power from him. As for his being pulled through, it is like reanimating a dead soul, and they are in torment and fear, for their mind is gone, screaming and crying. Forgotten King's power is strong, so he flails it about. This is why there is a prophet to control him and to guide him. To the Forgotten King, these are his spirits he cannot see fully through the veil. So when he's like being pulled from, we're talking about the walker. It's kind of like you have to do this like incantation, to which you become a vessel in that moment for the Forgotten King, and then as he comes through, in his mind he's totally unaware, but a moment has come, and so I don't know. I'm sure it's mass confusion, and he can't control the body, and he's flailing about and moaning and screaming, and that's where the leash holder comes in, to which he soothes this Forgotten King, but in reality, he could be drawing power. I'm not saying that all prophets are wicked like this and doing this thing, but it is more known than not that that's going to be happening. So you could draw power from him when this happens. And the first time's an incantation, to which they learn it's supposed to be like, okay, the Forgotten King knows that he can come through. Eventually he'll come through again later on his own. That's where the leash holder is, what's the word I'm looking for? Paramount. That's when he needs to be by his side every single moment. With it being officially named to the masses, God knows how long this has already been going on with Freyden. Maybe there have always been walkers that have been happening, more common than not, than it was originally thought. It just wasn't told to the masses. That could be something else that's going on. It's hard to say, but I do think that could be a fact. I don't know. But yeah, that was just something I had to get out there. Because, I mean, in the Forgotten King's mind, it's just kind of, it's madness. He's constantly in madness. He's in the other realm. It's crazy. He doesn't know what to do. And all of a sudden there's this portal that opens up and he can jump through. And then when he jumps through, it's just like you can't take that part of you that's gone and put it back somewhere where you don't belong anymore. So when he was cast to the other realm, his body had disappeared. I mean, it's turned to stone. There is no way for him to get back. So his understanding of getting back is completely obliterated. So, of course, when he comes through, it's fucking chaos. And that's the problem with this whole bringing him back thing. I'm sure within the Chantry there have been communications and like conversations, I should say, about this might not work. We might not be able to bring him back. But what we can do is use whatever power he has to defeat the Whisper. Now, it's because of his casting in this other realm, because of the Whisper, that everything is out of balance. And the Anaku may understand this, and that's why you see groups like the Serpentine Order trying to destroy the Forgotten King, the creator of man. Because it's man's problem anyway. And that's why they want to get rid of him. So they have their own agenda. They formed from the actual Keeper order. The Chantry. It's like an arm from it. The Keepers are just like a separate spiritual thing. They're like the angels, the prophets. The ones that don't belong in this realm that are here to guide us, but they've all been vanished. I don't know, I guess we'll just keep reading and we'll figure it out. Because we're just trying to talk about martyrs here, But I mean, you gotta have an understanding. You can't just like make shit up all the time, right? The connection of the Chantry to the Walker in Adriorix history has gone back to the 400s TA. It was established in the year officially at 462, after the completion of Neuvilla Square in Avolia. Before those years, the chantry held no power over the people as it does now. In those days, the Adriorix were merely separate from the politics. They were relied on spiritual knowledge purely, not what is seen today with members of Adriorix holding counsel for the Adine and thusly the walkers. So it's, the whole time, it wasn't always like that. This is just the job that they took. And like I said, man, like things happened. Eventually they said, hey, we're not going to be able to save them. We're just going to have to do this on our own. We're going to have to figure this out as a race of people. But right now we need to safeguard our flock. And if that means creating a fucking philosophy for them to believe in, well, then we got to do that while we focus on drawing the powerful Forgotten King to finally crush the Whisperer. And then they just keep circling. But anyway, during the early age of Adrana, when it was just a collection of city-states, self-governed, there was no true connection to the monarchs, which is a term for the walkers. You could call them the monarchs, because eventually in Adrana they made their walkers the leaders of the country, essentially. Oh, shit, you have the power? Well, you must be the President Jesus. In fact, the walkers were during this time never mentioned in the early texts. There was a clear distinction of a separated chantry and the work of the state. But when Odysseus died in 472, exactly 22 years after Avolia became an official state, and 14 years after the erection of Neuvilla, everything changed. This was when they started to see a strong connection from Adriorix. It was the head of the Ariok in the chantry, an Anaku man named Rika Dran, who named the next of kin as the new monarch of Avolia. The son of Odysseus was Barus. He was chosen for his family line that rose from the very Tan himself. Shit, when I scrolled, I lost it. Tan is the savior of man. He is the one who led everyone from the forest in the ancient text. What is not quite understood was the power that this family line had. They were a chosen family of the Forgotten King, apparently, and it was they who long ago surrendered themselves to the king to be the conduits of his bidding. The story is known of the Forgotten King being in the realm of creation, but what is not as clear is the part the monarchs play in this, though this was not an alarming during this time. It was Rikadran establishment of the Abeko College. Now, what is officially said about the Abeko College is that this is a school that instructs the soul singers, or the ones who communicate with those in the other realm. Was it not spoken about was where the first prophets came from, and every prophet after. What is not spoken about? Fuckface. What a prophet is could be dependent on where one stood. In an official capacity, they are the, quote, leash holders to the monarch. For it was well known that sudden and violent outbursts were very commonplace, and even rash and bizarre behavior was expected. It was the prophet who communed with the monarch/Forgotten King and carried out the wishes. Now, in return, this meant that the prophet was gifted powers that the Anaku culture would call the Dume, as mentioned in the riddle of the eye, the astral magic. Essentially, now this symbiotic relationship was hand in hand. One never saw one without the other. This was growing between the chantry and the state. And it was during the 470s that this power was growing with the monarch Barus Adin. Also during these times of the golden growth was the House Adin becoming established as a dominant house. Okay, we got a few things we got to go through here. What was that? Okay, so there was that, and there was. Let me see if I can find that. Har. Was it in this one? The Riddle of Your Mama, I think it was called. Let me see. I think it was. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Oh, there's more about the Adriorix Chantry. I guess this is about the Adriorix. Prophecies. False prophet, the rise of man. No. That's not it. trying to see what horror, excuse me, I mean, what friend. Yeah, chant. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. The Religion of Adrana, was it that? Well, that's one. But where's the one that talked about the Dume? I literally just looked at it. I think it wasn't the magic, was it? Because I just clicked on that. Yeah, it wasn't that. God damn it, I always like lose momentum. Was it History of Adrana? I bet it was. So much can be said in this initial statement about Adrana. The immense history. No, that's not it. Oh, you fucking skank. Trovian Empire, the furthest outpost of mankind. False prophet, the rise of man. The Forgotten Legend is about the shit. That's about the fucking Titans. Motherfucker. Trovian Empire, the furthest. Study of Gaul. What New Life. Forgotten Journals with an S. Mother. Alright. Yeah, this is taking me a minute, I know. The original keepers, blah blah blah. Where the fuck did I have that? The Dume. Maybe I can find it in the file. Yeah, I did instantly. What file was this? The Dume. Within the Trinity Forest, when the Inaku may roam the wood, there was talk of the folk having a power that could control the passage of realms. It was an oral power that could be pulled by the user and allow his, quote, inner light to guide him through the dark dream. The dark dream? Oh, jeez. It's the other realm, you find chaos. Yes, what was it? Where did I write that about the dark dream? The walker is the one who took the journey inward and had a dark dream. I had to find a dark dream, and it's somewhere around here. Anyway, the dream was a passage into the next realm. Now this power was only granted by the Inaku lords. They would pass this down from generation to generation to shamans, allowing them to maintain the balance that was opening into the said realms. It was within the forest that the veil was weakest, besides the Merfolk, and the Inaku shamans corrected the shifting of the realms and see that the balance was to be restored. When man entered the playing field, he had caused the unbalance and the instability of the Whisperer's gaze. The Whisperer was trapped beneath Yuandra, a spell cast upon him like the very same spell the Titans were under. But when Tanias killed the King of the Wood, which is the Forgotten King, though his sword penetrated the king, it took from him the power to call the Whisperer. It's a power of the astral. Anyway, story long short, short story short, horror. That was the Dume. It's just like it's an Anakame power learned from the mages. It just so happens that when they draw from it, their creator is in the realm of creation, so it gives them higher power. That's a bigger deal. Here's more information about the Adriorix Chantry. The Adriorix Chantry was created by, or was adapted by the Keeper Order, like their teachings, in the year 458, as the understanding of the expanse of life for man. It was the understanding that the world is but one realm in a continuous passage of trials that extend long after death. It was coined the Great Circle by the prophet Odysseus when he spread his knowledge unto his people. The circle works as a sound. When one dies, they pass to the next stage of life, then so on until they find themselves back in the land of the living. That is inside the realm of life, by the way. The problem is, when the Forgotten King became trapped in the center, or also known as the realm of creation, when the Creator inhabited, this has now caused no relief in the gauntlet. It It's the grave mistake that has thrown all in the realms of chaos. They have now been no relent in this passage. The real circle is what we are beyond, we are outside of. Okay, so just imagine this. In the center is the realm of creation. Imagine it as a bubble. That is the beginning. Everything that will be, or can be, or will not be any longer comes from there. It's the realm of creation. It makes everything. And it's swirling in space, let's say. Let's say it's in space. And it's swirling very rapidly. And when you go inside of it, it's its own world and all that. But when you jump out of it, it looks like a fucking water droplet. It's just, and as it's spinning, it's like shedding its creations into this circle of other realms. There's hundreds of other realms wrapped around this, like a galaxy around a black hole. And then it's shooting all of its creation into each separate area that it belongs, because it's creation. It goes exactly where it needs to go. So it's perfectly doing this. For some reason, outside of that is our realm, the realm of life. The realm of life is, I'm sitting on planet Earth, and Earth is inside of a solar system revolving around this sun, which this sun is just one of many inside of a galaxy, which is inside, like that. That's just our realm. The other thing I said before, I said paint it like you're thinking space, but it's bigger than that. We are outside of that. Our entire universe is outside of the other realms. But it can only be connected, as of right now, through the astral, through the dreams. That is the bridge into the other. Now, long ago, and it's very convoluted, and I could, Jesus Christ, I'll have to get into that another point, because I can't just say it in a few sentences that makes sense. Somehow the Forgotten King got himself trapped over in the other realm, the realm of creation, way outside of us. What does that mean? Well, the Forgotten King made man. So all the power that he has in the realm of creation somehow can get what's the word I'm looking for? We can have a reach to it, not to its full potential, but enough, because since he is our creator and not the creator of the entire circle, he's just a being that was created. Remember what he was saying when he was trapped near the realm, my creator, how have I failed you, and all that stuff. Well, we share consciousness. We are within his consciousness, which means whatever he has, we can have, if we do it correctly. Because he is our creator, we share that consciousness bond. Now, the ones called the walkers, or the monarchs, or whatever, and this, again, as I said, this is only in Adrona's history. This is their recollecting, their reckoning of what a walker is, what a monarch is. It is in many other cultures, other things. It could be the shaman sitting telling the stories in the northern lands with all the tribal people. In the south, it could be the greatest warrior that leads his men into battle. In Elengor, it could be the king that saves his people from the dangerous lands that Elengor holds. It could be anything. We're just talking about Adrona right now. That's the point. It's just one viewpoint on a bigger picture. Which made me lose my thought. But anyway, we share that consciousness with him, so that's how we can tap into the power. And then the walker is just the person that has, I guess if we were to say and make this equivalent to real life, we would say the walker symbolizes someone with very high empathy. And it just so happens in this fucking fantasy book that having high empathy means that you can hold the power of the Forgotten King. And so you're sought after. You're leeched on. And in the Adriorix Chantry, which once had very good intent, no longer does. I mean, maybe there are a select few idiots in the group that understand this, and I'm sure I could write a story wrapped around that, like him watching it fall to pieces. He or she, I don't know. Probably a she, because I have a story about, oh my God, what did I call it? I had a story that was in the gardens, and it was Aya's story, or so, it was gonna be Aya's story, and she was in this kind of like, in real life, there's those places where they teach young girls to be nuns and all that stuff, and it was gonna be about that, and it was, what I can do, it'd be her viewpoint of what's happening to Adriorix Chantry, like it's like a separate story. Christ, man, this is becoming way too big. But anyway, so that's kind of what's going on, and the importance of the Forgotten King, and why this all matters. It comes across so much clearer in the story. Right now it's a garbled mess, but eventually we'll figure it out. Oh my god. It's insane. I mean, I know, I understand. It's probably like, wow, what the fuck's this motherfucker talking about? There can be no peace until the realm of creation is freed of the Forgotten King. So they cannot pass. The whole point of the Forgotten King was to put the realm back into balance with the realm of life, our realm, in touch with the other realms that are affecting us. But because he's in the center, he's thrown all of confusion, and it's fucking up everything. This is where the keepers come in, because they're spirits from another realm to guide us, to guide him. Because nothing can enter the realm of creation, but somehow the Forgotten King did, which is the mystery. But that's where the keepers come from. They're the best and brightest of, I guess we could say, spiritual mages, or, they're religious prophets from another dimension coming here to help us, and that's what the keepers are. But they've all vanished and disappeared in time. What is going on there? We'll figure it out. But it is the keepers that helped Adrana rise to power. They're the reason that Adrana became what it did. They're the reason the Adriorix Chantry became what it is. I want to go into them later, because I have a whole fuck of a lot about the keepers. But let's mark that moment and say, okay, next step, what are the keepers? And how do they affect the Chantry? And mankind, essentially. Not to confuse them with the spirits. That is a whole other thing. There can be no peace until the realm of creation is freed of the Forgotten King. Yet the bigger issue is, why hasn't the Creator intervened? That is answered by those in the Chantry as a test of the Creator. A relent in the guided hand he has given. Originally, the keepers were the order to solve the issue of the Forgotten King and his predicament, as the Chantry is only the worship of all the Creator has blessed in the early days. Now, this ideal ending would be taken back to the realm of creation with the Creator. But ever since the Whisperers saw it to his demise, the king is maddening in the realm, throwing everything out of balance. It is known as the Great Conundrum, one that may never be solved. So each pilgrim of faith is to know the way of the circle and find peace in each knowing this. So it's almost like we're teaching the people underneath us to just say, accept it, son. It's just what it is. It is what it is. This is life. You have to accept it. Because we will find an answer, but you will not figure it out. So if we just give you some peace and know that you're going to be safe and okay, it's going to be fine. That'll allow us to figure this out. The problem with that is, as we already know, what Adriorix is up to right now, and the problems that they have. One may never be solved, so each pilgrim, blah, blah, blah. The pilgrim has no choice but to live life over and over again until the king can one day be freed. Essentially, that what I'm saying there is, you're going to keep living over and over again in reincarnation, because you can't go to the realm of creation. You're outside of the realm, all that shit. Just think about it. This freeing would have to be the next walker, or the one who transcends his realm without death. The dark dream is also referred to as. As of right now, it is believed to be the monarch Freydin. He would be the next walker. Anything else? Through the passage of time, or, quote, waking life, pilgrims must know the way of evil and good. They must walk the path of life in the realm of Kramois, the holy way. This Kramois is a doctrine created by the ancient keepers and upheld by the Chantry. The one who upholds this doctrine are the Eriak, holders of the law and interpreters of the holy text. As they uphold the text, they see that its teachings are being spread to the whole realm of Adrana. Here's a fact. The Kramois texts were created by the keepers around the year 340. How do you say that? In the 340s. That's weird. And hold the understanding of the circle of faith of life. That's the intervention of, let's just like make it easy to understand. Aliens that helped us build the pyramids, shit. That's what the keepers are to Adrona. They technically are aliens that came over in another realm and said, let's help you because you guys fucked a lot of stuff up. But we cannot intervene like that. There's a thing. Now this is what I'm talking about, like, well, the Adriorix are doing this and the Chantry's doing that. This is the good days. This is when they were doing what they were supposed to do before it got corrupted. Before they just gave up and said, we can't rescue him. We have to siphon from him. The Adriorix are those who uphold the Kremos. But those who enforce the laws are the Order of Kremos. Now, Kremos is different than Kremos. Kremos is directly quoted the Holy Way, the Holy Book. It's just like the Kremos, the doctrine, the belief system. Kremos is the sun. So Kremos is like, if you were to say Kremos, it's sun book, essentially. Kind of like the real Bible, with Greek, I believe. So Kremos is sun. So when they look at the sky, they don't say that's our sun. They say that's Kremos in the sky. So when you say Order of Kremos, it's Order of the Sun. And they are in the tribunal temple. They are the holy police for the Adriorix and uphold the doctrine by force among the folk. It's weird how to describe what they are, but they're like if the police were attached to our church. Doesn't sound like a good idea, right? But that's what they got to do to combat the whisper. Now, the Adriorix are not figures that are seen by the average person, for they never leave the monasteries. It is the job of the capo, the one who spread the holy word to the people, and act as conduits for the Adriorix. These are not direct teachers, but they form the Abeco College in pursuit to transfer the word of the Deoc, who then guides the pilgrims directly to Neuvilla. Oh, wow, that's what I called it. Oh, that's fun. Nosvilla. That's what I should have been called this whole time. In Neuvilla Square, but the Nosvilla, or that's a holy church. Damn it, dude, I didn't know that. So apparently, in the Abeco College, when I said earlier is the spirits, which the spirit mancers, that's a little sect of the college. It's like, you want to take that class, that's Spirit 101. But ow, damn it, dude. But the capo, that's like, I don't know, another class, essentially. But let's think of it like that. Most folk are not aware of the great struggle in the realms, for they are only taught how to become better people and lead good, meaningful lives. That's a quote. True, they are told the ancient stories of the past, like of the forgotten king and of their growth and everything like that they know that has to do with prayer and worship, but they're not given the whole truth. Instead, they are focused mainly on what is said earlier, quote, living a good life. But they are instructed about the barrier and the fog of lies. So these are their pillars. When you have the doctrine, you have the pillars of that doctrine. You have the Holy Ghost and Jesus and God. Like you have those things that like this is what we're built upon and we will go from here. Right? It's a teaching. It's an understanding. It's, again, if we go back to, my God, which one was it? Then we could remember that it said, the force, right here. That's people, mankind, the force. The force is uncontrolled power in need of intellect to regulate the soul of the body. It is the direction to quell basic human instincts in the mind, lending to progress. Progress that stirs man away from the promise, which is the whisper. Now, eventually this became correct with Adriorix and the break from the Creator. For the belief is unbridled power is destructive. That's later. The philosophy of the Keeper's spirit will give light to love. This is what it was to live in the good days, and it became corrupted, but this is what I meant when it was created, when I said they were taught the pillars which helped them live a good, meaningful life. This is what it was. truth through philosophy, guided by intellect, and regulated by right and justice, combined with movement to guide into harmony. We're just making this, and we're going to keep smacking it in your head until you understand it, and all it is a doctrine, is like we're fucking hypnotizing you into thinking life will be good if you are good. Be a good person, do good things, don't allow the whisper into your head. How do I not do that? Well, we made these things, these pillars. First one is the barrier. Simply can be put as faith and devotion to Adriorix. But what is not known to the average person is how important this is. The barrier is not only a metaphor for the pillars that are faith, but also the spiritual defense against the threat of darkness, a cloak created long ago to push back the influence of the whisper. Though the whisper's touch was quelled and his influence grew without the realm of Adriorix, in the land of a tainted man. And when this was understood, the Chantry taught the lesson called the fog of lies. Okay, let me go back. So the pillar is just like, the barrier is just like putting a barrier between those darknesses, the pool of darkness that the whisper grows in, putting a barrier between you and that, and not allowing that to happen. How do we do that? Again, the just philosophy, the belief system, living a good life, separating you from that darkness. What they don't understand in real life is the real barriers. Now, the real barrier is failing. That was created by the Forgotten King to stop the bleed from the realm of creation, because of the whole story of the snake in the portal. Something happened with the Whisper and the Forgotten King. That what led to him being stuck in the other realm. It's a long fucking story, but to put it short, he created the barrier to say, let's stop this bleeding effect from the darkness coming through. And that's the real barrier. Right now it's failing. But the metaphorical barrier is the one in your mind where you say, live a good life, okay? I can get into that way more, and I understand that's probably like, what are you talking about? After the Keepers, we'll talk about on the next one. The one after that will be the story of the Forgotten King and his fall and why everything is the way it is. Because again, that's the benchmark, the cornerstone. That is what the story is about. This is all because of it. This was born because of it. Just like life. One man made a mistake, Cain and Abel, and look where we are now. Adam and Eve made one mistake, and look where we are. That's all it is. It's just that. It's just, here's the benchmark. Here's the moment of, holy shit, uh-oh. And then everything follows it. It's just a part of that. To which means one emotion will be explored, and I'll get into it a lot more. But anyway, next is the fog of lies. When the whisper's touch was quelled, his influence grew without the realm of Adriorix. Sorry, let me read that again. Though a cloak created long ago to push back the influence of the whisper. Though the whisper's touch was quelled, his influence grew without the realm of Adriorix, so beyond the barrier. In the lands of the tainted man, the ones that don't follow Adriorix's stuff, that's like other man's race, Tantorum in the south. They're considered the tainted men to the Chantry. And when this was understood, the Chantry taught the lesson called the fog of lies. So basically, everything outside the barrier, that's all the fog of lies. Well, to put it simply, they were the dark thoughts that the pilgrim's head would lead them astray from the path of light. But unbeknownst to the pilgrim, this was identifying and suppressing of the whisper's promise. The fog of lies is saying, okay, if you fall from the barrier and those thoughts come to your head, those are the fog of lies. Do not listen to them. That is the whisper trying to trick you. What does that mean to a regular pilgrim? I don't like my neighbor. I don't trust what he's fucking doing, and I think he's stealing from me. I'm going to go figure this out, and if he is, I will murder him. You know, that's a bit excessive, but that's what can happen. That kind of stuff. This motherfucker cut me off in traffic. I'm going to fucking ride his ass, and I'm going to, like, next light, I'm going to say something to him. That's the whisper coming about. The fog of lies. Don't believe it. I'll give you strength if you do this. You'll feel better when you yell at someone. You'll feel so much better. You'll be happier when you let someone know how they made you feel insignificant and small. It's that. It's when people yell and scream at each other. The fog of lies. That's the whisperer saying, if you scream more and yell more, they'll listen more. I'm giving you power. That bullshit. But unbeknownst to the pilgrim, this was identifying and suppression of the whisper's promise, a tool given to an unknowing populace. Getting back to it, that's just what they're doing for the populace. They're just trying to guide them. They're trying to force them forward because they are the force, the untampered force. If they didn't have a guided philosophy, they would be a mob that could destroy everything in their sight because the whisper would attach to them, the darkness would swell within them, and they would be tools for destruction. The Chantry is looking to make them, what's the word I'm looking for? Not useful to mankind, but they're eliminating them from infection, essentially. Now, while that's going on, that is the job of, what were they called again? The Order of the Sun, the Holy Police. They're enforcing this. You could think of it like the Thought Police, in that way. Not like as soon as you have a bad thought, they come and arrest you. It could get that bad, but they're the ones that's their job. Not the Adriorix. They're the ones who hold the doctrine. They're the ones that interpret the doctrine of the keepers. The Holy Police, the Order of the Sun, are the ones who make sure that that's going on, make sure that they're following the good and right way. The capo are like, this guy's going around spreading the good word, I'm traveling to your town and I'm going to be speaking. And then underneath them is the lowest, which are called the Daok, and they're just priests. They have their own churches, and they're just like, I preach every fucking Sunday here. That's it. That's all it is. It's not that complicated. It's not a big system. What it does, what it does make me think is more of a police state in Adrona, and that's kind of what I originally imagined, but I never went into it. Because the idea is I want it to be such a police state that you don't even know it's a police state. You don't understand that you're being controlled and all that stuff. But I didn't think it lent to the story, because once you leave that, it's like, well, what the fuck was that about? Like, we're not talking about that again? That's something I got to think about. You talk about, like, oh, it's this police state, and you cannot have these thoughts and the darkness thoughts and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, the city's attacked. And all of a sudden, Eris has to go, and now he's being chased by other darkness and shit. I could still possibly do that. I just got to kind of think about it. So that's something to think about, too. Mark that one as something to ponder about. Anyway. Now, the last branch created by the Chantry, and quite possibly one of the most important, was the Soul Singers that was mentioned before in the Abeco College. The Soul Singers follow the school of Spiritmancy, or Spiritmancy. The ones who could commune with those who have either passed into the next realm, or those who always inhabit that realm. This was a tricky job to be done, as the ones who always inhabit that realm could at times create chaos for we in the realm of the living. They have been given the name Daemons by some. The Daemons are the guardians for this next realm that is often confused with death or the land of dead. Quote, the Soul Singers could hear the moving of the realms. There is much that is known, but what far outweighs this knowing is the unknown. The Soul Singers cannot know what is beyond the next realm. That person can only be Freydin, for he was crowned not only the monarch, but the next coming of Odysseus. It would be he who could transcend to any realm like the fabled Landstrader. He was the walker. That's what differentiates a monarch to a walker. That's what it was. Fuck yeah. So a monarch happens all the time. A monarch is the family line. It is the Forgotten King's line, right? Not like he birthed them, because he made all mankind. But they are the chosen ones. They're the ones that can be, how do I word it? Inhabited by the Forgotten King. There is a difference between that and a monarch walker. That means they have the same powers as Forgotten King, where they can transcend outside through the astral and go into the realm, the circle of realms. That's the whole difference. That's why the walkers are more rare. That's how the Adriorix can keep going. That's how the Serpentine can keep taking people. That's it. That doesn't make sense to anyone right now, but to me it makes a lot of sense, because if I didn't have that, then it's like, well, then fuck, you're waiting 50 years so somebody may or may not be born? No. They are constantly born. They constantly have the power of the Forgotten King. The Adriorix constantly use them. The Serpentine constantly steal unknown ones away and use them to get into the realm in a dirty way. I'll get into that later. Not as in this one, but another one. Serpentine Order. That's the point of that. The Walker is much different. The Walker is the one that can physically enter the realm. The realms outside of the astral. Here's what it said. The Landstrider was the Forgotten King of long ago, and what was said was that he destroyed the Titans of old and banished them to unawakening slumber far beneath the earth. The Landstrider was one who could penetrate any realm he chose. Here's a snippet of a document in the archives of Danzuria Temple of the Light. Quote, "The Forgotten King who strode the sky. He was a coveted creation above all else. It was said that he could penetrate any realm he so wished. He was the first man, for he did share the image of man. This was the reason for the hatred by the Titans in the first place. He shared the image of man, whereas the Titans bore no resemblance." It was said that they roamed the world, and with the mighty Elkins centuries before. This, however, was later believed to be the creation of the very Titans. This belief of the returning of the Forgotten King's bloodline in the shape of the Freydin is a third appearance since Odysseus, who had the claim of being the first. That claim was bestowed upon him post-mortem by those in the Keeper Order long ago in 472. The second coming of the Forgotten King was in 1243, officially when Ravian Spellsong, Dovanik, was born. He led the revolts of 1292 against the oppressive clandestine order. The name Spellsong comes from his call to the Dume, the only non-Anaku to hold the power at that time. That's cool, eh? In fact, his teachings of the realms had been a direct link to the soul singers of the Chantry now, though they do not hold the wealth of power he could command. For many years, the Adriorix Chantry holds ultimate power over the people of Adrana, and even parts of southwest Tantorum. They are the saving grace to all that inhabit the realm of Adrana. End of that one. I don't know why we did that, but that's the Adriorix Chantry. I guess we're kind of just we're talking philosophy and we're talking religion today. Is apparently what's this going on? Wowsies. Okay. That's a force. Then Abeko College, I talked about that. That's the houses of... No, we don't really need to know about that right now. That's Adrana history. Well, let's see. Here's what, okay, so... the difference between a walker and what's called a monarch. So in Adrana, it's called a monarch. In any other culture, it could be called fucking anything else. But here's how they kind of pointed it out. What is understood about the monarchs were that they were conduits for the Forgotten King. Let me write that down better so I don't forget. But this is not always seen correctly. Long ago, before the shaping of nations, when man roamed the world for centuries, they could have been the shamans. They could have been the high priests or the ones in touch with the god. Or they were the village storytellers like those in the Kaidan Highlands. Throughout many cultures, they were many things. These men are found in all societies. Only in Adrana are they used thusly, wherein they are conduits not only for the creator, but devices for the mages that cling to power. In many cultures it varies. For instance, in the south, like Quran, quote, the one who hears the song is found, and that man is followed without question. He has raw, quote, tribal power, and is often used for war in the southern cultures. There has been an overwhelming amount of chosen ones in any religion or state, but enough that cultures and religions are built around them. The fact that these journals focus on the monarchs only in Adrana, because these are the personal thoughts about, okay, that's something totally separate, but because I have journals of monarchs over time, and they found them, and then they're putting them together in like a book. Or I should say I am. It's kind of separate. It's what they went through, what they discovered, what they learned about the Forgotten King. Basically, you use these monarchs who, like I said, in Adrana are made to run the country. You use them for history. Because if you're channeling Forgotten King, more and more can you understand a little bit of what happened before. That's why they learned about the Titans. No one knew about that until them. That's how they learned about what the Forgotten King's folly was. And that's why they use the monarchs to try to understand how to free him, because if they can figure out how to, what the monarch, what the Forgotten King did, and his view of being freed himself, then they can do that. It's just the Forgotten King doesn't know how to free himself. It's the Walker who comes along every once in a while and becomes this mighty thing that can transcend the realms. It is his job to free the Forgotten King. Though maybe over time, like I said, with the Adriorix, maybe they don't want him to free him anymore, but want to use him because they've given up on freeing him. So they just take this Walker and they just kind of, like the monarchs right now in England, like, do they really matter? Not really. But you have all this power. You could literally make people put their heads on fucking spikes. No, we created Parliament, so you can't do that anymore. It's probably something like that. They watered it down. It's more of a ceremonial thing. Yes, he has enough power to do those things, but they don't allow him to. It's probably something like that. And when Serpentine gets involved, they say, well, they're not using him anyway. We'll take him. And we can kill the fucking Whisper and the Forgotten King in the other realm. It's a whole thing like that. I think this one's marked. I think this is a good one. So, I didn't realize how long I've been going. What I want to do next, and the next one will be, because I have questions asked, so it'll be Keepers. And the one after that, maybe Serpentine, I don't know. But next one, for sure, needs to be Keepers. Because this one was supposed to be about Martis. And it never got to Martis. And why he's working with the Slop King. That was the whole fucking point of this. But, of course, that's what always happens. I want to do something, something else happens. So I guess I wasn't ready to hear it yet. We'll figure it out soon. But until next time.